Today we'll be talking about some controversial comments the Duchess of Sussex has made in the recent episode of her podcast. She was joined by a few guests who expressed their frustration over Hollywood's box for Asian actresses. And we've got the whole scoop. So, if you're ready to hear Markle's disapproval of a common trend in mainstream media, let's get to it. Firstly, we should probably review our loved movies. Look, no one is arguing how iconic some Hollywood blockbusters are. And hey, mostly all of their impact is important to where we are now, in one way or another. But then, shouldn't we at least correct how we look at some of these films? And figure out where their messages weren't, in the end, for the absolute best? Well, this may have been exactly the basis for the can of opinions opened by Meghan Markle in her latest Spotify podcast episode. Here she slammed cult films like Austin Powers and Kill Bill for casting Asian women as over-sexualized. Of course, in the name that these are hardcore characters, but come on, looking back on it, we can see how their feminine powers were basically weaponized. But she didn't hold back there, but went on to call out Hollywood filmmakers for adopting the dragon lady stereotype for Asian performers. Meghan described this as an East Asian temptress, whose strange foreign appeal is written as both seductive and dangerous. If this is making your skin crawl, trust us, you aren't alone in that. And in talking about this more, she was joined by journalist Lisa Ling and comedian Margaret Cho. Both of them agreed when she stated how movies like Austin Powers and Kill Bill showed Asian women as overly or violent, trying to appeal to a certain audience. So, this just makes us think, what other movies have gotten away with this cheap writing trick? Next up was Yeah Baby, really worth it? Look, as much as that line is stuck in our heads, the context of this whole film in this video sort of new light to everything. Here we're talking about the 2002 film Austin Powers that, even when it premiered, hadn't gotten the best review, has somehow become well known in fun cinema history. But when you really watch the film today, and especially the role of two Japanese characters, Fook Mi and Fook Yu, it quickly becomes clear where the ball was completely missed. Come on guys, even hearing the names now, we're sure everyone can see how easy comedy was back then. But to what limit? Just constantly and tokenizing Asian characters for some laughs and engagement? Well, when talking to this podcast, a scene where Mike Myers as Powers ticked off a with Japanese twins was brought up, and as you can imagine, this caused some serious anger in the voices of the hosts. Cause still, would this image actually be stopped by the film industry if people knew it'd get them an easy penny? And let's be honest with our unfortunate answers here. So, is Meghan really saying anything that wasn't seen by us? Or is it just something we've become used to at this point? Cause what can you do? Following that, come on ladies, revenge is best served cold. Hey, don't get us wrong, whatever is said, female villains are iconic on another level, but their trend of being cast as Asian to add that extra touch of easy stereotyping is the issue. This was also the case in the hit blockbuster Kill Bill 2003. True, it's a movie whose posters are recognized in many countries, but it again uses the dragon lady stereotype. In Quentin Tarantino's film, Lucy Liu played Yakuza leader Ulren Ishii. In commenting on her, India Roby, a fashion writer, called the figure a dragon lady and said she used her as a powerful tool of manipulation. Yet, she was also emotionally and cold and threatened the macho men in the film. If your guys' eyes rolled to the back of your heads with that, you now get why the Duchess had to talk about this issue so publicly. That being said, last year, Liu fired back at the criticism. She claimed that it didn't make sense given that the film included 3 other professional female assassins. But still, in the wider picture then, we can question if this example fits in with the theory we've now seen more and more in Hollywood. And if so, should this be labeled as problematic? Well, we're honestly curious about what you guys have to say to that one. Moving on, did the Duchess project some of her criticism? Well, at this point, it should be no surprise for us to remind you all of the, what's the politest way to say this? The complicated image of the Duchess was given when she joined the monarchy, and then everything following that. So, when Meghan warned listeners and the rest of the program to dismiss societal frameworks and ignore the loud voice coming from a little space, listeners were left wondering if Meghan made a subtle reference to the royal family, as she talked about identifying herself. She added, "You want to be strange, or sponge-like, or or fierce, or curious, or even self-doubting or doubtful on days. That's up to you, but you must be powerful and brave on others. Just be yourself, spite of what any cultural structure, image, or loud voice from a tiny place says you should be. Be true to yourself. Guys, if that isn't an admirable statement, we don't know what could be. Let's talk about the stereotyping not stopping off screen. So, we get it. You may be asking, aren't these issues just involving the film industry and all of its chaotic parts? Well, no. Come on now. Tell us you haven't ever been subtly affected by how people, issues, or animals have been shown in stories. You can't deny that those images have resulted in a certain view towards these things. And that, my friends, is exactly what the hosts go on to discuss. In the following segments of the podcast, Meghan states many American-based films are guilty of making up caricatures of Asian women, usually either by making them overly or aggressive, and this has undoubtedly affected how real-life Asian women are seen. Ling told Meghan that while she was a Channel 1 anchor, she was named a Rolling Stone Hot List reporter, but she faced racist attacks as a result. At work, someone took out the piece, drew slanted eyes over the eyes, wrote, "Yeah, right," and then placed it back in my mailbox, she stated. More so, she felt as if every spark of excitement she'd had suddenly dried away. It would have been so upsetting that someone she saw every day at work, where they're meant to feel comfortable, just had those emotions, and then had the nerve to make it racist. See, this is the clown behavior such mainstream media can normalize. How are these affecting us going forward? Well, from an actress's viewpoint at least, Lucy Ling went on to reflect on how this made her feel the walls of the figurative box she stood in. As an AAPI, Asian American Pacific Islander woman, 'cause if I can't play certain parts because mainstream Americans still see me as other, and I don't want to be cast in just typically Asian roles since they feed into stereotypes, then alright, that's that, right? So the end result of this would be a loss of such incredible talent in Hollywood. If that's the case, guys, the screen is about to head back centuries real quick. And if you thought this issue couldn't get any worse, oh, you're in for a surprise. Lucy also pointed to the story of Anna May Wong, a Hollywood star who said she lost parts to white actresses dressed in yellowface. And while Leo believes her popular success has moved the needle, she adds, it is confined, and there is still much further to go. Well, if that isn't the unfortunate truth. But when asked about her personal experience with Korean American culture, Meghan said that she and her mother, Doria Raglan, used to go to the Jimjilba spa. This focused on relaxing and spending quality time with friends and family. Still, she had been unaware of the stigmas faced by Asian American women around her as well. She'd only realized them many years later. Does anyone still think that the stereotypes just stay behind our screens? Finally, Meghan may be race baiting. Well, let's give this a fair shot. Glasgow comedian Leo Kearse slammed this criticism, calling the Duchess an exhaustingly woke, race-baiting, self-obsessed grifter. Well, these definitely weren't British play-fighting words. No, the anti-woke comic and GB News presenter told the Scottish Daily Express that the racial grifter Meghan Markle criticizes the caricature of Asian women, as seen in films like Kill Bill and Austin Powers. She spins her comments by sarcastically stating that she'd mistaken them for documentaries, and then again adds the argument that nobody actually believes the image of Asian characters shown in these films. Maybe Meghan had been unaware that pays tribute to the sensational martial arts films of the 1970s, or that Austin Powers was a parody of James Bond's Dream World. If so, what is she going to complain about next? Well, I guess we'll just have to wait for the next episode of the podcast to find out. For now though, that's all for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you on the next one.